Hey, it's Soul with another video. And you know what would be cool? If the gear that we got at the start of a given season wasn't replaced, but it was upgraded or it was classed up to like heroic item level by the end of the season. We're kind of jumping right into it, so if you don't mind, like the video, subscribe and catch me live on Twitch. So upgrading gear is like kind of a thing, obviously, thanks to Season 2 of Dragonflight. You can take a piece of veteran gear that starts off like kind of meh, and then it's as good as normal raid gear once you apply crests and flight stones to it or whatever. And as raiders and dungeon people run higher difficulties, they slowly replace and upgrade their pieces, and there are kinks to it, but for the most part, it's a really cool improvement that lets us feel like we're progressing a bit, even if our best in slot doesn't drop at the end of the day. Now, I'm a big fan of this system, but I'm sorry to say that I'm not here to talk necessarily about Big 3 content, as in organized raids, PvP, and Mythic Plus, or their players, because they are kind of okay, or at least there's enough visibility there, and I want to lend my voice to the other crowd that I usually do. The folks who barely dabble in that space at all, and they prefer to play in outdoor content. This expansion, Dragonflight's been doing a lot to improve outdoor content. Like overall, I'm finding it to be a step in the right direction, and I want to make a suggestion, maybe even a prediction on what's going to happen in future seasons now that we're about to wrap up our first season with this whole upgrade thing with flight stones and crests and what have you. One of the biggest wants from players ever since this upgrade system was announced was, hey dude, like we want a way to take the gear that we've picked up, like Explorer level gear, and then somehow, some way, bring that all the way to Mythic over the course of a season. And that sounds pretty cool, so naturally the WoW team said no. Which isn't entirely accurate, it was more like never say never, but for the moment no. But what have we gotten instead throughout this season? We have gotten easier access to better gear. So quick breakdown, start of Season 2, outdoor content. Veteran gear could, for the most part, be found from Feroc Assaults, give or take a world boss or a weekly chest. Then a little bit later, 10.1.5, the ante was bumped up a bit. There's now a vendor that we can buy veteran gear off of, but it's heavily controlled with a weekly token, which is, whatever it is. And then in 10.1.7, which is going to come pretty soon, at least so far on the PTR, there's going to be easy to get veteran gear that can be traded across the account, and now there's going to be champion gear off of a new vendor, again, controlled with a weekly token. The scheme here that I've been pointing out to viewers lately is that the WoW team is slowly giving easier access to better gear replacements as the season rolls along, kind of like time gating. What I've observed is that for the most part, people are eating it up. But there's also some critical feedback. Like some folks, they don't like that feeling of chasing for the next gear replacement after only a few short months. It makes their previous work feel less relevant. Now, there are multiple angles to this, I think, but it makes that criticism no less valid. But you know what would be cool? If we could better integrate the feeling of gear upgrades to the progression throughout a given season. This suggestion is only really looking out for the kind of player who, again, just does outdoor stuff. I mean, yeah, you can do 5 heroics for champion gear each week, but that's not really the point. The goal that I have in mind is to make gearing feel a bit more fun thanks to finding upgrades, but also to give the player that experience of longer-term investments into their gear, even if ultimately it's just an illusion. And I'm probably making a little bit less sense now, so let's just reimagine how Season 2 could have played out, and it'll give you an idea on how future seasons could work, because this might be pretty exciting. So the start of Season 2 gearing, it's going to feel the same. Feroc Assaults, they're like mostly the thing that gives veteran gear with a maximum item level of 424. While for the most part, a lot of the gear earned from like world quests and such are adventurer class gear. The max item level there is 411. So nothing really changes at the start of the season. And then patch 10.1.5 happens. We get time rifts. We're still going to get that vendor that asks for a token that we can only get one of each week, and that's going to score us veteran gear. But on top of that, finally the new stuff, we get this one special item. This item can be used on eligible adventurer gear, and it will class it up from adventurer to veteran. As for what kind of appearance this gear would have, dude, I don't know. My focus right now is just on giving players the feeling of upgrading and classing up their own gear instead of simply replacing it. And then what would happen in 10.1.7? We're still going to get that weekly token that can be used to buy champion gear or worm crests, and you would get another one of these items. Well, it's a new item, I guess, but you get another one that now upgrades your existing veteran gear to champion gear. So imagine this, like this is, I guess, kind of in practice. Imagine that you have a freshly leveled alt and you're just throwing whatever catch-ups you have at them. You have tradable veteran gear, some crafty gear here and there, and a little bit more. Now, there's still an incentive to run maybe a quick time rift for the weekly rewards and maybe class up a piece of adventure gear that this alt is still happening to wear, and then run 1017 content to get like these 2 pieces of champion gear, one off of the vendor and one that you're classing up from your existing veteran gear. Maybe it was the piece that you just classed up from time rifts. I'm trying to sell the idea that the adventure piece that you got at the start of the season, maybe not the explorer gear, but the adventure gear that you got, could be champion gear by the end of it. The time rifts have a bit more staying power because you can get veteran gear that could be, again, classed up to champion gear. This will make people feel more empowered to do more, to get more, without the hassle of like re-enchanting or gemming gear. I don't see significant issues with this because in reality, I'm not adding much to the game here, but I'm going to bring up what comes to mind, like trinkets. Maybe trinkets will not qualify here to make everyone's lives easier. Like imagine in the 0.7 patch, it's like, oh, okay, now that crummy trinket from the start of the season is suddenly best in slots even for big 3 players. I don't think that waiting for trinkets to go up in item level should be part of the late season meta. And also the system's gonna have to be smart. Like you'd have to level a veteran piece to 4 out of 8 to make it eligible to class up to champion, but if the veteran piece is already 8 out of 8 and then it's classed up to champion, then the new champ gear will be 4 out of 8. You know, the levels that are plugged in will just carry over. As for the catalyst, sure, let's just make these eligible starting at veteran level. With this idea, people who do mostly world content are going to gear, well, almost twice as fast, because yeah, they're going to be capable of getting double veteran or double champion rewards, but first, they do need the gear to class that up from, and second, they're still going to need like flight stones and crests to level them up. And then, of course, what about big 3 players? And as a big 3 player myself, well, what about us? A system or a subsystem like this almost flies under the radar except for maybe alts that I just leveled up. I do think that these special class-up items could and should be used for Raid or Mythic Plus gear as an option, but I don't think it would make a significant difference to our usual behavior. And notice I haven't said a thing about Hero or Myth class gear, because the system is not targeted for those kinds of players. I mean, yeah, okay, there's gonna be people who are like, ooh, I really need that veteran gear upgrade for my Mythic Plus. But I don't imagine that to be that many. And these special items are being released with the 0.5 and the 0.7 patches, so those folks are going to be kind of waiting and not really appreciating what's happening. Big 3 players have their gearing opportunities open up from the start. This idea does, in a way, time gate the classing up of gear, and it keeps that hamster wheel turning. And if you see it like that, I'm not going to stop you. I just see that the biggest wrinkle from upgrades comes from the awkwardness of having to replace one set of gear with another, and what I'm trying to propose here is an opportunity for a more natural path where the next class of gear is now accessible without the feeling of OMG required content, I must do it, or FOMO. And lastly, should these special items be tradable across the account? Just my personal opinion here, I don't think it needs to. I'm already proposing that outdoor gearing be almost twice as fast as it currently is, and we're not exactly having people run plus 16s as a weekly activity. But as someone who does do both raids and outdoor content, I stand somewhere in the middle, and that's just one of many perspectives. So I invite you to share your own. Would it be cool to actually class up our gear? Would it make any difference for you? Leave your thoughts in a comment below, like this video, and subscribe for more of this kind of commentary. And catch me live on Twitch too, I'm always up for a chat. Stay safe, stay healthy, and stay breezy.